Hello everybody, welcome to my Daily Dose with Tim. Today is season 1 episode 21 and as promised this is our 5th week now, and as promised from last week, because I know a lot of you guys are really interacting with me and we are having a lot of conversations happening, and some of you are suggesting that maybe I throw some of financial education and business mindset on this. And you know what, I kind of thought about it because at first the approach was really to share a little bit more about me, who I am, my background with you guys, and that'll lead up to why I do what I do. However, I kind of thought, you know what, your suggestion actually makes a lot of sense. Why don't I share a little bit about what I'm truly, really passionate about and what I do every single day as well right now with a lot of you guys. And so for those of you who are watching right now, make sure you interact with me. This is meant to be more of a dialogue and interaction and a conversation rather than a recorded video, even though I know a lot of you guys tend to be watching this afterwards as well. So as you can see, no more of the brick walls because I've sort of changed environment. I mean, I'm very old school. A lot of people tend to think that just because I look a little young, I'm not that young, as you guys already know, I should be very good with technology and all that kind of stuff. However, when it comes to staying organized and learning, I'm still very much a pen and paper kind of guy. And for those of you who have actually worked with me as a coach, as a mentor, as a trainer, you know that actually tends to be my style. I love to illustrate because, again, my personal belief is that I want to always explain things in the simplest way possible, because it's kind of like what Einstein says. If you're not able to explain what you're explaining, what you're saying to a 6-year-old, you probably don't know it yourself well enough. And so every step of the way, especially when I'm training, when I'm coaching people, that's usually the approach that I look to take for myself as well, and more importantly for my students, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if I know how to do what I do. What really truly matters is whether or not the person that's on the other side of the table understand what it is that I'm sharing with them, what I'm showing them, what I'm really holding their hands through. So today, we're going to start with a little bit of the fundamentals, and this is why you kind of noticed that I had a bit of a fun with the title of the episode, even though, yes, it's season 1, episode 21. However, what I really did over there is, are you in an abusive relationship with money? And the funny thing, though, is that over the last, I don't know how long now at this point, because a lot of you guys know that my formal, I'll put it that way, financial education personally really started 10 years ago. However, again, as we all know, money is one of those topics and subjects, and that value system, as a result, it gets very deep rooted. Basically, ever since we were born, the day we were born, there is a certain money value or system attached to us because it is constantly being given to us, both verbally, through instructions, explicitly, is that the word? Yeah. And implicitly through our parents, our friends, the society, advertising, marketing, the news, all that kind of stuff. It tells us what we're supposed to do, and it's kind of been creating the culture of what we call keeping up with the Joneses. And I think some of you guys actually understand that concept. That means really a lot of us, we work so hard, we work our little assets off for the money that we have so that we can spend that on things to impress the people that didn't really care about what you have in the first place anyway. And so this is the funny thing. The one thing, though, I want to start with really, and you can see I got my marker and my little flip chart happening here, is that it doesn't matter. What I've noticed is from teaching financial education around the globe is that it doesn't matter how old you are, what culture you come from. None of us actually can escape this simple formula when it comes to money, which is, revenue minus expenses. And at the end of the day, drop my marker. At the end of the day, a lot of us, we will leave with something that's positive or something that is negative. What's really alarming, though, really, is that the debt load for an average Canadian or really North American households are pretty crazy. Most people, the stats right now, and I actually don't have stats post COVID yet because we're still going through it. Right before COVID, the stats have been stating the fact that most households, and by most we mean over 80, I believe it was over 83% at this point. Over 83% of North American households are actually spending over $1 for every dollar they bring in. All right, guys, I kind of wanted you to just think about that for a second, okay? So really what it boils down to is that most people, most households kind of live over here. Most people live over there, and that's a dangerous to be in, a dangerous place to be in. And the funny thing though, honestly, is that it doesn't matter how old you are, where you're from, and what your money value has been. Nobody on this planet actually can escape this simple formula. You make your money, you spend your money. At the end of the day, how much are you left with? So this can be applicable to multi-billion-dollar corporations like Google, like Facebook, like Amazon. However, it can also apply to even an unborn person, an unborn baby that's still in the womb. Why? Because for those of you parents and you have kids, you understand what that is that before your kids even arrive on this planet, there's already expenses, right? You're spending money to set up the nurseries, to make sure that you go to your doctor's appointments. Those are all resources. So depending on where you are in the world, some of us were a lot luckier. There's healthcare that can take care of a lot of those things. However, those things are also paid by taxes, which means still it comes out of your expenses for the most part. The point is though, it just really depends on how you work with this formula. So many of you know my day-to-day background is a professional real estate investor, and I also teach people how to do this. So throughout the week, I'm going to illustrate some of those points, largely using real estate as the vehicle to really demonstrate this. However, what I'm really looking for here is to really kind of get everybody's brains going a little bit, is that from a revenue perspective, most people, they have their what we call job, which as we like to joke stands for just over broke. Think about it this way. Why do we call it just over broke? Because a job is kind of like a golden handcuffs. They pay you just enough so that you can pay all your basic expenses and have a little bit of a lifestyle. So it's just that. Remember the stats that I was telling you earlier? Most people tend to spend a little bit more. However, that also becomes that hamster wheel that keeps going. It's the fact that as we get promotions, as we get bigger paychecks, as we get raises, as we get bonuses, and also as we get older, the more we make, the more we spend, because we live in that environment right now where there is that need for instant gratification. So there's so much that's actually in play here. However, the point is, for most people, the only revenue source is to rely on a just over broke, which means, you know what? You have one customer. Your customer is your boss and the company that you work for. And so that is what most people focus on. However, there's a lot of people, when they are a little bit more entrepreneurial, or they understand the fact that if I want to make a little bit more, I probably need to do a little bit more. So as a result, maybe they do keep their JOB still, then they're going to move into maybe joining a direct marketing organization, or maybe they do a startup. Maybe they go into buying a franchise, which is very popular. That's another story that I have to share with you guys one of these days as well. And maybe they go into investing. So for us, this is real estate investing. Some people will go into actively trading in the stock market, and they get themselves trained to become a day trader. So there might be a lot of other things that you can see and you can think of on this list. However, I just want to really kind of bring things into perspective and put a bit of a focal point on it. And the point is, though, at the end of the day, well, we all have expenses, right? We all know that there are two things that are for certain for every single person that are born onto this planet, which are death and taxes. And so for most people, that's sort of where that fall under. Obviously, from a day-to-day perspective, we got to put a roof over our head, we got to eat, we got to clothe ourselves, we got to clean ourselves. I hope you do. And the rest is really just non-essentials. And I know a lot of people would think something like this is very essential these days. I tend to agree, to be really honest. However, at the end of the day though, food, clothing, shelter, those are the three main things that are really essential to everybody that we budget into. However, the whole point is, what is your relationship like with your money? Okay? How do you make your money? How do you spend your money? And what are you left with on a monthly basis or even the bi-weekly cases? Simply because a lot of the times, I understand, and that was the case of me as well, I was getting paid bi-weekly. So that's kind of how I did my budget as well. The most important thing though, when it comes to, are you staying in an abusive relationship with money? Well, let's put it this way, because after speaking to a lot of the industry professionals over the last decade at this point, what we've really learned is this little, well, I'm going to share a little graph with you, and some of you guys have seen me do this already. It's one of my favorites. However, it still hits home, okay? And if this is your first time, I hope you enjoy it and have fun with it. And if you have any questions about it, make sure you leave me a message or send me a text. And if you like what I'm showing you, make sure you like it. So we have income and expenses. So remember what we just did earlier in the previous flip chart, which is you have your revenue and you have your expenses, okay? And then for all of us, we also have assets and liability, okay? So first thing first, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of what is an asset and what is a liability. So as professional real estate investors, you know what, forget about it. For anybody who is looking to be money savvy, okay, money savvy, you need to understand the true definition between asset and liability, because a lot of people tend to think that all debt is liability, which is true. At the same time, there's a lot of people that just think that all debt is bad, and that is completely false. And I'm just going to tell you that right now. So if you think that all debt is false, I need you to, all debt is bad, I need you to start to really, really challenge yourself, because there is such a thing as good debt versus bad debt. And that's something that we're going to go into throughout the course of the week as well. However, right now, what I really want to focus on with you guys is how we can actually sum up the three different type of relationship that most people have with money. And chances are you probably fall under one of these three. Okay, so relationship number one is what we call a poor relationship. And this is what I mean by abusive, okay? So here, and I don't mean the poor. What we're talking about here is what we're thinking, okay, when it comes to our relationship and our money value system. So the poor relationship typically would go like this. Even if they own a business, even if they own franchises, even if they have other ventures that they do really well, the point is they will make their money. It could be from their JOB, it could be from whatever, or a combination of. What they tend to do is, hey, you know what? I work so hard for my money. So every penny that comes in goes into feeding my expenses. So the expenses could be toys, could be a nice bag, could be new clothes, could be new cars, could be new furniture, could be a nice dinner, could be a great bottle of wine, could be a great family vacation. Whatever the case may be, it goes straight out. And by the way, just in case you're wondering, your savings typically, for most people, falls under the expense segment, the expense section of this little graph. So even if you think you're saving, you know what? At the end of the day, money in, money out, and there's really not a whole lot left. And when you save that money, you're kind of subject to what the banks tell you most of the times, or whoever you bank with or park your money with, how much you can actually make from that. So hopefully that's not your case. However, again, we know that there's a lot of people that are trapped in that. The next one is the most common one, especially in North America, which is what we call the middle class mindset. Okay, the middle class mindset. What happens is, because we live in a world, or in a banking system rather, where when we make money, guess what? We are actually able to qualify to get credit. So For most people, credit, that becomes credit cards, that becomes personal loans, that becomes line of credits, that becomes mortgages or car payments or Best Buy credits or well, Sears is not really around anymore. See, that's how old I am. I'm thinking about Sears. Anyways, the point is people will make their money, okay? And then what's going to happen is, well, because they want something and they want it now because I work so damn hard. I know on paper they say that I only work 40 hours a week. However, the reality is I really do work 60, 70 hours every single week, especially if you factor in my commute and all the traffic that comes with it. And so what they'll do is if they don't have the money in the bank right now, they're going to go apply for loans. Buying that dream house, buying that dream car, going on that vacation, eating out at that restaurant, or buying that bottle of wine, or buying that beautiful purse that they've always wanted. And then they leverage. What that really turns into is, yes, you do not have to be paying the bills right now. However, you're going to have to be debt servicing that. And so as a result, money in, money out once again. And now, for a lot of people, this is all we're striving to be, okay? I'm not gonna lie, after this long, I still have moments of weaknesses where if I want something, I want it now. However, these days, we've trained ourselves to really stick to the formula because after all, we love leading by example and we have to lead by example. That's the thing. So the wealthy mindset that we've learned and that every single day we hold ourselves accountable. And by we, I mean me and Ray, by the way. A lot of you guys know who that is too. So the wealthy, this is how they operate. Money comes in. So it could be a job, a business venture, whatever it may be. So notice I did say job because remember, I know sometimes in the financial education world, the word job has such a negative connotation. And even though, yes, earlier I did make fun of it a little bit, we call it just over broke, it doesn't matter because it's not your job that will define the health of your financial situation or your financial health rather. It's really what's happening in here, your views, your value system when it comes to money and your relationship with it. That really makes the difference. So the wealthy, what they typically do is when money comes in, the first thing they do is they will buy asset, okay? So asset that is going to be generating income on a monthly basis, okay? If not on a daily basis, something I'll share with you later too. So asset that's going to be generating income or money on a regular basis. And what they'll do is, well, guess what? The money will now generate, the asset will now generate more income. And we're not saying don't buy the fancy stuff, don't buy the fun stuff. We're not saying don't go on that nice trip. You want to. And this is why, first and foremost, we do see money as a tool. It's no different than a hammer, no different than fire. You can use it for good or you can use it for evil. With money, it's exact same thing. And so when we do this, I'll give you a quick example. Ray and I, we're not big car people. However, we do enjoy our German luxury cars in the sense that we just want comfort and safety and that, oh, it looks a little pretty to us. And the thing is, we're not car buffs. However, the whole point is though, before we acquire a new car or before we lease out a brand new vehicle, by the way, we lease our vehicles. Why? If it moves, if it drives on the road, if it swims in the water, if it flies in the air, those are usually depreciating assets, usually, okay? So that's why we lease. We only own assets. And now, what happens is, let's just say if a vehicle is $100,000 that we're looking at, okay? And the monthly payment is going to be about $1,500. What's going to happen now is that with that $100,000, if you're doing a 20% down in real estate deal, okay, that means you can actually buy up to a $500,000 property, depending on the market that you're in. The point is, we're going to look for a property now, which is an asset, that is going to spit out at least $1,500 every single month. I mean, that's just the car payment. Then we got to pay for gas and insurance and license and registration as well. So let's just say, $1,500. However, ideally, we actually do buy an asset that will cover all of that expenses because guess what? Now that $100,000 goes into the asset that's going to spit out that money, then we go to the dealership and pick out the car we want and sign on the dotted line on that lease. Because every single day, my $100,000 is now parked in an asset that's spitting out money. That is debt servicing for my toys. And that's how we do it. And so for some of you guys who know this, back in December, we finally decided to get our basement developed. And the amount of money that was going to take, instead of putting that in to the construction work altogether, just cash, we decided to put that money into a renovation project. So a lot of you guys know it as flip. So thanks to HGTV, you've seen a lot of those. So what we were aiming for is that we were going to use that money, that cash that we've saved up, and we put that into a deal, and the profit that comes out of that flip project will cover the construction of our basement. And so again, it's not the easiest thing I'm going to be to do. I'm going to be honest with you. However, again, if you just do this, even 99% or even 80% of the times, I'm pretty sure that you can start to break up with some of that abusive, bad habits from the relationship that you have with money right now. So this honestly is one of the biggest aha moments that I've had, because honestly though, over the last few years, and I mean over the last couple of decades, I went from buying designer t-shirts, now going into, I don't care for those things. However, if I do want to, guess what? Whatever money that I have right now, I'm going to invest that into an income generating asset. And then that asset will now spit out money and then pay for all the toys and the nice clothes that we're looking for. So this, I hope that you do like, and if you think that somebody else needs to hear this, especially some of the people in your lives right now, please like it and share it with them, because this whole week, it might go on longer. I'm getting the feeling now based on some of the conversation that I've had with some of you already in the background. However, that's totally fine, because honestly, this is my passion, because I really do see, especially COVID really just put a magnifying glass on how much the world really needs to elevate their financial literacy. So happy to share as much as I can with you all. Now, the point is, every single day, as you know, my Daily Dose with Tim comes to you at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 5:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this whole week is all about financial education and business mindset. So I will see you back here again tomorrow. Have a great evening and enjoy your night.